On a cold Tuesday evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of purple and gray, something extraordinary happened on the cracked asphalt of 5th and Main Street. A small, trembling figure stood in the middle of the road, arms outstretched like a desperate prayer, tears streaming down her dirt-smudged cheeks. She was no more than 7 or 8 years old, barefoot, wearing a thin dress that seemed to belong to someone from another decade. The motorcycle stopped with a screech of tires that echoed through the quiet neighborhood, and from the clouds of smoke emerged 10 of the toughest-looking men anyone in that area had ever seen. Their leather jackets were covered in patches, their faces weathered and stern, their presence commanding and intimidating. Yet what happened in the next few moments would change everything. Because this little girl had just begged these hardened bikers to arrest her, and nobody could have predicted what their response would be. If you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, if you think humanity still has the capacity to surprise us with compassion, then please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share this story with people who need to hear it, and subscribe to our channel. These are the stories that remind us why we're all here, why we still have hope in this world. Let's begin. Her name was Emma, though nobody had called her by her name in so long that she'd almost forgotten what it sounded like. She had lived her entire short life in a cramped, suffocating apartment on the 7th floor of a building that seemed to breathe desperation through its very walls. Her mother had disappeared 3 months ago, leaving nothing but a note and empty promises. The note said she was going to find work in another state, that she'd be back soon, that she loved Emma. 3 months is forever when you're 7 years old and alone. The landlord had stopped coming around after the second missed payment. The refrigerator had been empty for weeks. Emma had learned to eat from the charity bin behind the supermarket on the corner, to shower from the public fountain in the park, to sleep curled up on the fire escape when the apartment became too cold to bear. But the worst part wasn't the hunger or the cold. The worst part was the silence, the crushing, suffocating silence of being completely alone in the world with nobody who cared whether you lived or died. Emma had walked through her neighborhood like a ghost, invisible to everyone who passed her on the street. Adults would hurry past her with their eyes averted, as if her presence was contagious, as if acknowledging her suffering might somehow make them responsible for it. Other children stayed away from her because she smelled, because her clothes were dirty, because there was something in her eyes that made them uncomfortable, a kind of desperation that children shouldn't know. Emma had become invisible, a shadow, a problem that everyone wanted to forget. On that Tuesday evening, Emma had made a decision that she thought was the only solution to her unbearable situation. She had heard stories about how police officers helped people, how they took people away to safe places, how they could make things better. She didn't fully understand the world, but she understood that living was becoming impossible, that she couldn't continue like this anymore. So she positioned herself in the middle of the street where the motorcycle club usually passed through, their engines roaring like dragons, their presence impossible to ignore. She would get their attention, and when they stopped, she would ask them to arrest her, to take her away from this nightmare, to bring her somewhere safe where she wouldn't be alone anymore. The moment the motorcycle screeched to a halt in front of her, Emma's heart began to pound so violently she thought it might burst through her chest. The bikers removed their helmets slowly, and she could see the confusion in their eyes, the concern mixing with something harder and more complex. The leader, a man named Rick with a gray beard and weathered features that seemed to have been sculpted by decades of hard living, stepped forward toward the small, shaking figure before him. The other 9 members of the club spread out behind him, their massive silhouettes blocking out the fading daylight. This was a motorcycle club known in the city for their rough reputation, their no-nonsense attitude, and their strict code of brotherhood. They were the kind of men that people feared, the kind that mothers warned their children about, the kind that had likely seen darkness and dished it out themselves. Yet when Rick looked down at Emma's tear-stained face, something broke open inside him. Emma opened her mouth and the words came tumbling out in a rush of desperate honesty. She begged them to arrest her, her voice cracking and trembling as she explained that she had no mother, no father, no home, that she was alone and scared, and that she couldn't do it anymore. She said she had committed crimes, that she had stolen food, that she deserved to be taken to jail, where at least there would be a bed and meals and people to watch over her. She confessed to her loneliness with a rawness and vulnerability that made several of the grown men turn away, unable to bear the weight of her suffering. She told them about the empty apartment, about the nights when she didn't know if she would survive until morning, about the way people looked through her as if she didn't exist. And then, with her final plea, she asked them if they would please arrest her, because she didn't know what else to do. Rick crouched down to Emma's level, and when he did, the other bikers understood that something sacred was happening. This wasn't a typical stop on their evening ride. This wasn't business as usual. This was a moment where the universe was asking something profound of these men who society had labeled as rough and dangerous. Rick's eyes were wet with tears that he didn't try to hide, and he gently reached out and took Emma's cold hand in his large, calloused one. He told her that he couldn't arrest her, but that he could do something better. He could help her. He could save her. He could be exactly what she needed in that moment when the world felt impossibly dark. What happened next unfolded like a real-life miracle that nobody would have predicted. The motorcycle club didn't call the authorities to come and take Emma away. Instead, they made a decision that would alter the trajectory of her entire life. They contacted social services. Yes, but they also stayed with her, they held her. They wrapped their leather jackets around her trembling body. And they told her that she was going to be okay, that she wasn't alone anymore, that they would make sure she got to a safe place. One of the bikers named Marcus, a man with tattoos covering every inch of his arms and a voice that sounded like gravel, carefully lifted Emma onto his motorcycle and rode her to the hospital where she was given medical attention, warm clothes and hot food. The story didn't end there. As the social services investigation began to unfold, the motorcycle club transformed themselves into Emma's guardian angels. Rick visited her in the foster care facility 3 times a week, bringing her books and gifts and spending hours just talking to her, helping her process the trauma and abandonment she had experienced. The other members of the club began pooling their money to ensure that Emma would have everything she needed. They helped her find a stable foster home with a loving family named the Hendersons, and they didn't stop their support after that placement. They showed up to her school events, they helped her with her homework, they celebrated her birthdays as if she were their own daughter. They taught Emma that kindness exists, that people can surprise you with their compassion, that even those who appear rough and dangerous on the outside can have hearts of pure gold hidden beneath all those scars and patches. 18 months later, Emma had transformed from a desperate, lonely ghost into a thriving, smiling child who had learned to believe in humanity again. She had been placed with the Hendersons permanently, with the full support of the motorcycle club. She was in school, making friends, laughing, playing, and dreaming about her future. And the most beautiful part of her transformation was that she never forgot the night when 10 bikers stopped their motorcycles to save her life. She never forgot that kindness can wear a leather jacket and ride on an engine that roars like thunder. This story teaches us something profound about the nature of human compassion and the danger of judging people based on their appearance. These bikers, these men whose society had written off as dangerous and untrustworthy, proved that they possessed more genuine kindness and humanity than many of the people who had turned away from Emma. They understood what it meant to be broken, to be lost, to need someone to care. They responded not with indifference or judgment, but with action, with love, with a commitment to changing a life. Emma's story reminds us that true strength isn't measured by how tough you appear or how afraid people are of you. True strength is measured by your ability to recognize suffering and do everything in your power to alleviate it. If this story has touched your heart, if you felt even the smallest spark of emotion watching Emma's journey from despair to hope, then I'm asking you to please engage with this video. Leave a comment below telling me what this story meant to you. Did it inspire you? Did it move you? Did it change how you think about kindness and second chances? Please comment and let me know how this story impacted you, because your words matter, and your engagement helps spread stories of hope and compassion to more people who need to hear them. Thank you for watching this incredible tale of how bikers became angels, how a child found salvation in the most unexpected place, and how humanity proved once again that we are capable of extraordinary goodness. Remember that every single person you pass on the street has a story, and sometimes all they need is someone who stops, someone who cares, someone who believes that their life is worth saving. Let Emma's story inspire you to be that person for someone else.